Well, hello and welcome to the PMQ live update for today, which is Thursday, March 18th. I'm very excited. This is a very interesting topic. It's kind of the topic that took over the pandemic world. It became the number one household hobby for home bakers over the last year. So there's been a big boom in this, and it is sourdough. So we're going to be actually talking about sourdough starter today with one of the, dare I say, experts in the field. Maybe he's like, I don't know. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Mr. Michael Kalanty, artisan bread baker and author of How to Bake Bread and How to Bake More Bread. So he knows all about the bread and all the other breads that you want to do. So, Mike, I appreciate you being here today, taking the time out to help our audience. Why don't you go ahead and give us a brief rundown of who you are, what you do, and what your passion is.
That's great. Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having me on, and welcome, fellow pizza makers and bread bakers. Michael Kalanty. I live and bake in San Francisco, and all that stuff about we have the best sourdough and everything. That's true in a way. It's also not true, so I'll help you with that. But I'm a Philly boy originally, and went to college on the East Coast for math and statistics and general science. So I have that geeky kind of, look and brain set. And my first real job out of college was teaching high school physics and calculus. And that's when I realized that I love to teach. I ended up going back to school. I went back as an architect because I really like drawing. I like constructing things, building, and stuff with my hands. That led me to France, where I was studying the Gothic cathedrals, with like the flying buttresses and Notre Dame and Reims and all of those things. And every town I went to, it had the same smell in the morning, and you could just follow this aroma and you would end up at the local boulanger, the bread bakery. And that just sunk into me more. And that's when I learned that I liked bread as much as I liked architecture and teaching. So now I get to put all of those together. For a while, I was the executive bread baker for the Cordon Bleu schools in America. So I wrote their bread curriculum and a couple of books for them. And now I work primarily as a developer, or here in San Francisco, we say food innovator, and help people out with their dough formulations and sometimes even making no gluten bread. So I don't know. Don't really spread that around too much. Anyway, so that's me, and really glad to be here, Brian.
Well, no, it's a new world, and everybody deserves to be able to eat bread in some form or fashion. So, yeah, we want to make sure everybody is welcome here. So, I did want to actually show that this is kind of our agenda here for today. We kind of jumped into this. I kind of went a little ahead of myself here, but the introduction, we wanted to get excited about sourdough because it kind of took over. Everybody just figured that this is the time that they want to figure out how to make their own sourdough starter and actually make their own sourdough bread. We wanted to meet the baker, Mr. Chef Michael Kalanty, author, artisan bread maker. We've done that. But we also want to figure out how sourdough starter changes the taste and texture of our crust. And then there's a story of Lucky Lady number 9. So for the next 3 minutes, I want you to tell us about how sourdough can actually change the taste and texture of our crust. Just briefly, because we'll get into that a little bit later. But then I want to hear the story of Lucky Lady number 9. And if you guys have questions here, put them in the comments in the Facebook section, and then we can get to them, and Michael will answer them as soon as we can. We want to go through a couple more sections. I did want to show you guys again section number 2, which is going to be creation, management, and use of your sourdough starter. So we're going to talk about the ingredients, the feeding ratio, the fermentation schedule, storage, technique takeaways, and the baker's tip, and then also how you use it in pizza. And this is a lot of information we want to cram in there, but we'll let you know how you can get a bigger, more fuller education about this as well through Michael's classes that he has online. And then after that, I want to hear your burning questions about sourdough. And then I want Michael to give me a final affirmation for the industry and why sourdough rocks and why we should all be just happy where we're at and how we can make each other better. So we're always getting a couple comments. So I'm going to go back here real quick there. So why don't you tell us real quick about how sourdough can affect the taste and texture of your pizza crust, or even just in bread in general?
Wow, I'm exhausted just listening to everything you talk about, Brian. So I don't know. But okay, so here we go. Sourdough, yay. The best invention since, well, before bread, I guess. And, the thing that I find that it gives, and I'll talk pizza specifically because the pizza channel and all of that. The thing that I find that it brings to pizza is it changes the flavor profile and it changes the texture. And these are all personal preferences. So as a baker, as a pizzaiolo, you may or may not want this much sourdough in your dough or that much, etc. And that's for you as your expert to understand and make your own changes. But the two major things are, the one is the taste profile. Now, certainly it makes the bread, or it makes the dough more tart. It makes it more sour. And let me see. So if this is like, okay, so if the outline of my head is a tongue, that's pretty funny. But the sourness on a tongue would be like my cheeks. And it's the part, as I'm talking about, like grapefruits and red wine and balsamic vinegar. It's a part of your mouth that should be like getting juicy right now, because even those thoughts are bringing to mind those sensations for you. So it adds that flavor to the product, and you as your baker or pizza guy can make your own more sour or less, and we can talk about how that affects what products go on top. The other thing that happens is it changes the texture. And people who want that real, like, oh, I need that snap, that crispness, and all of that stuff. As you add the sourdough and the fermented structure to that, it decreases the ability of the pie to take on a crisp texture. And I mean, take it all away. It doesn't turn it into like, a supermarket dinner roll or something like that. That's certainly not what happens. But it does. I mean, if your customers really like, oh, we love that, like just crisp bite on the Corona, that that only has a shelf life from the oven to their table, and the sourdough actually kind of decreases that. On the other hand, what it does is it gives you a longer chew. So if you take a bite of your pizza and you're like 1, 2, 3, okay, it's gone, I need another bite. Then when you put the sourdough in there, the starter, that slows the bite down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 bites you'll get out of it before you swallow it, which helps with the overall mouthfeel. So there's characteristics that it brings, and it's all that. So there you go.
Well, that's a great answer right there. You covered the taste and the texture. And then when you were talking about on the side, I mean, it's a lot of times when you get that sour bit and it just seizes up the side of your jaw, and you have to smack it if it's too sour. So I knew exactly what you were talking about. It's like, you should be salivating while I'm talking about this. I'm like, yep, I get it.
Smacking thing, but I can see where I could apply that.
Oh, well, it gets me sometimes. You bite one thing and it just everything seizes up. So, all right. So, lucky lady number 99. We're going to talk about this real quick. Now, this is a personal achievement for you, and I wanted to put this out there so everybody knows that I'm not just talking to some guy I found on the street in San Francisco. You are the real deal. You are legit. Lucky lady number 99, Belgium, Saint Vith. I had to look up the spelling. I thought you did a typo. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about Lucky Lady number 99, and then we're going to go into section 2, and this is all about the how you make it and what you do. So just real quick, a couple minutes.
To show you, this is Lady. This is my little beagle that came with me to San Francisco. It's 27 years ago now. And, so anyway, so I named it in her honor. And the very first thing I did was I went to Napa. I got some organic grapes because, I'm in California now, so it needs to be all organic. And I put it in some water, and I added some flour, and I started it, and it's been alive ever since. So it just had its 27th birthday on Valentine's Day, which was just a little bit ago. There I am at the Sourdough Museum in Belgium. Well, so the thing with my sourdough is that a lot of it's like a child, and how you take care of it. And some people are very strict, and they're like, no, it has to be this kind of flour, it has to be that kind of flour, it has to be this and that. What I did was I said, you know what, I want Lucky Lady to have as worldly an upbringing as she can. So I would always sneak little bits of it. Ooh, I probably shouldn't say that with TSA. Onto planes and take her to Italy, to France, to Germany, where she would collect the local bacteria and the yeast. And so, and I encourage all of that. It's like when you send your kids to, junior year abroad, it's like, here, get some culture. So anyway, and so Lucky Lady turns out to have so many different strains of yeast in her and different bacteria that it's like, over and above what you would normally find in a starter. And based on that is what got her inaugurated into the Sourdough Museum in St. Vith. And her roster number is number 99. So there's the whole story. There's that.
So,
and, man, she smells good.
Well, so Lucky Lady number 99. I mean, that's I love the story. I forgot that you named it after your dog, and you probably made some no-fly lists. But I don't think TSA watches my show that much. But I wanted to show that yes, we do here St. Vith. I mean, it's a beautiful place. We know another gentleman, Will Grant. He's been on the live updates earlier.
Yeah.
I think he maybe got in there after you. I think I don't know if you got in there before or after him, but so here's all the fridges where they're keeping all the samples.
Yes, the refrigerators, and I think there's a total of maybe 10 or 12 in each one of the refrigerators, and this is only the main room. So Lady's in that; she's the next to the last one in there, and. And then they're continuing since then. So they really are amassing a seed bank, literally, of all the different cultures.
Well, and I was going to say, it looked like there was 100 up through 102 past, number 99. So
I think they're up to 110 now, I think, something like that. Okay. But just for the heck of it, anybody interested in sourdough should check out the Sourdough Museum. It's sponsored by a company called Puratos. And you may know them from their the bread developments and the flavor. See, what they do is they take these strains and they make flavor additives so they can increase flavor and shelf life of your baked goods without going through, your own process of having the sourdough starter.
They're basically amassing all the information anybody wants to know about sourdough.
That's exactly what they're doing, and it came from that whole seed bank idea up in the Arctic, and they were like, you know what, we have to start making a library of this, and a chronology for posterity or in case something disastrous happens. So I don't know.
Hey, somebody's being prepared.
COVID. She lives through COVID.
All right. Well, and I'm going to ask you to hold your guys, Lucky Lady up again here in a minute, but I wanted to let everybody know now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to do here. So here we go. We have creation, management, and use, and basically this is where we're going to be talking about creation, management, and use. The ingredients you need to make a starter, your feeding ratio, fermentation schedule, storage techniques, baker's tips. And if you can't see underneath that, it says use in pizza. You can see the word pizza, which is nice. I didn't line that up, but that's beautiful. So without any further ado, honestly, Mike, I want to let you go ahead and kind of take it away as far as ingredients. And I think you had something, you were going to set something up, which I didn't know about, but you're going to make a starter right in front of our eyes, right?
Well, you know what? And National Sourdough Day, right? Isn't that like?
Yes. Oh, okay. Absolutely.
April 1st or something.
Yes. No, thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah, we're doing this 2 weeks in advance because April 1st is National Sourdough Day. So this whole process will take you about 2 weeks to from when you start it, how you ferment it, and just feed it, and then by the time you can actually use it and get the correct taste and textures, it's going to be about 2 weeks. So we wanted to give you guys time today, if you're watching this, to be ready for April 1st, National Sourdough Day, which is also National Soylent Green Day, but that's a whole different video.
Oh, man, a great movie.
I'm not going to give away the twist ending, but yeah, watch to the end, guys.
I think everyone knows it, Brian.
All right. So without further ado, we'll jump into section 2, with creation, management, and use. Let's get into ingredients and feeding ratio. So how do we start this? How do we make one?
So the reason I want to show you how to do this is because it is so easy. It's just so easy. So you put your container on the scale. It helps if you have a scale. If you don't, then you can, it's always, everything is equal portion. So equal water, equal flour. So use a baker's scale or just, your hands, because your hands can tell what a pound of cheese feels like. So anyway, press 0, and then I want 100 grams of water. So that goes in. A little bit too much there. There you go. Now, I need some kind of natural yeast ingredient to go in. And natural yeast you will find on the outside of vegetables and fruits and grains. It's that white cast that you see on top of raisins and things like that. Huh. So if you take raisins, and when you're on the East Coast, this is what I used to use. We didn't have organic stuff when I was in Jersey. So they do now, but anyway. So you just, so on these, what used to be grapes, and now they're raisins, is like, there are millions of wild yeast cells on the top of this. So that goes in.
Well, yeah, we've all seen that little white. I never realized that. That's insane. Okay, so is that equal portion to 100 grams?
It's not all of what that is. Some of it is like wax, so it stays on there, and the bugs don't get the grapes. But anyway, so I got 100 grams of water. I got a random amount of dried yeast. If I put more in, it will work faster. And then I need 100 grams of flour. So, lady, pardon me. And this is white wheat flour. This is actually from Central Milling, which is my personal favorite right now. And
well, here, real quick. What's an email that they can reach out to you if they want to get these Baker's percents? I was going to put mine, but I mean, you mentioned, it's easier to reach out to you, which is fine with me.
Oh, you know what? No, you know how to contact me, you guys. Just go to my website, which is myname.com, and it says, "Hey, chef," and so I think you can figure that out. So,
all right. So you're putting 100 grams of your flour.
There you go. So, all right, 100 water, 100 flour, and then I put the secret little yeasts in there and stuff like that. And then I'm just going to stir this up, and there you go. It's together. Do I want to develop gluten or all that stuff? No, who cares? I don't. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take wild yeast and give it an environment so it will multiply. And just for the heck of it, because I had stuff up on the wall, I'm going to stick my hands in some water and brush down the wall and just put a little bit of water on the top so it doesn't dry out so much. And then for the next 24 hours, I'm just going to put a lid on it and I'm going to leave it. And that's how you start it. So you come back tomorrow and then I'll show you how to keep feeding it. So,
well, we're not going to come back tomorrow, but I mean, so are you saying you put a lid on it? You leave it for 24 hours at room temperature? You put it in the fridge? How do you work that out?
fell off my bike.
Oh, no.
So,
I mean, for the first 24 hours, what do? You refrigerate it, or do you just leave it out at room temp?
No refrigeration. Okay, so here's where we do like food safety and sanitation, right? So bacteria grows between 40 and 140 degrees.
Yep.
And so that's why you don't leave the milk out or the cheese or stuff like that, because bacteria and yeast will grow. Well, we want the yeast to grow. So what we do is we put it smack dab in the middle of that temperature danger zone, and the yeast says, oh, all right, well, this is a nice temperature. Let's eat this flour. Oh, it's from Central Milling. We love this flour. Yum. And then it just goes to town for 24 hours. And that's what you do. You don't do anything else. It won't work faster if you put a lid on or if you don't. But if you have fruit flies, the lid will help you. If you leave it off, that's when Lucky Lady came once and licked it. And that's why I said, oh, I'm calling this after you. So
is that what's in the museum, right?
Yeah, well, 27 years ago. It's part of the genome of Lucky Lady, it's in there.
But you can actually, even if you did like just a saran wrap or plastic wrap, if you leave it loose enough, you want to allow that gas to kind of come up too. You don't want to.
It needs air. The yeast needs air. So I just put that on, and then the cat doesn't go in. The kids go, oh yeah, he's doing stuff. Don't open it. Blah blah blah. And but every once in a while, if you feel like it, if you're compelled to do something, then open it up, stir it around, get some air in there, and then, put the lid back on. And that will just help distribute things. That's all. That's the most that you have to do. You don't even have to read on the internet how to do it. That's all you have to do.
All right. So pretty much 100% ratio from flour and flour and water, and like you said, any kind of natural or fresh yeast. You're talking about using not fresh vegetables, but the, raisins and things like that. Something that just kind of.
I've made it from the tops and the seed pods of like red bell peppers. I've used like the tops of pineapples. I've used carrot shavings, and I've used all of that stuff because it all has yeast on it.
Okay, so after that, what's the next step? What do we need to do? So the ingredients, basically, at this point now, what we're trying to do is the feeding ratio. We're talking about 24 hours, room temperature. Do we put it in the fridge at that point? And then,
fridge.
Okay, and then, but how do you feed it? What's the kind of the ratio of how you feed it to keep it growing?
Okay, so here's what we do. This is what we do. So the next day, you'll say, hey, nothing's really happening. This isn't working. Well, it is working on a microscopic level. You just can't see it. So what you do is you take half of it out. Okay, so what do we have in here? We have 200 grams, right? So we'll take 100 grams and we'll dispose of that. I put it in the compost because, it loves mashed potatoes and pork chop bones and all that stuff. So I put it in there. But don't put it down the drain. Just don't do that. And then, okay, so then what you did was you took out some of the stuff. And so now you have 100 grams left, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what you have to do is, if you have 100 grams in there, then you have to add 100 grams more of flour. You have to match the flour to the amount of yeast that you have in here.
So basically, you're just adding flour. You're not adding water, though, but you're adding the amount that you took out.
But this is key right here. So I have 100 grams of this. So I add 100 grams of this flour, and then I take my water, and then I add 100 grams of water. So I'm always 100. Then I mix that all back up. I stir it. I put the lid back on, and I put it back out and say, see you later. See you tomorrow.
Okay, so just real quick, you said you took 100 grams out,
Right.
but you're going to add 100 grams more of flour and 100 grams more of water. So
right now I have 300 grams.
Gotcha. Okay, that's the one thing too. A lot of people get that mixed up as far as not adding enough water or mixture to kind of refeed it. Now, this is better used for people who are going to be making these bread or crusts more often than not. If somebody doesn't make it that often, how long does it last as far as like storage? So I mean, the fermentation schedule is, every day or two, you take out half and then replace it. And you're also increasing it by 50%. At a certain point, I don't have room in my fridge for this much sourdough starter.
I gotta throw the towel down there for a minute. Okay, so yeah, you're using too much math, and your math is correct, but you're using it. You don't need to. So
well, that's why I wanted to go to storage. I mean, when can you stop feeding it, and how long can you store it?
So we're only on day 2, right, of a 10-day thing. So we don't have anything yet. We just have like flour and water and some raisins. So we haven't really built it yet. We need to commit ourselves to 10 days before we can talk about long-term storage. With me?
Gotcha.
Okay, it's like the gestation period, and then you got the kid. So okay, so on day, where are we now? Now we're day 3, right?
Yep.
Okay. So however much I have in here, and your math tells me I have 300, I'm going to take 200 out. And what am I going to put back in? Because now I have 100 grams of starter.
It would be,
the answer.
200, but like 250?
So
you're going to put 200 back in, 200 of water. So I guess it's technically 400, right?
No. I'm sorry. Okay, I confused you. I have 300.
Yes.
I took 200 out. Now I have 100. So in that 100, I'm going to put another 100 and then another 100.
Okay, so you're always taking it back down to 100. You keeping it at 300.
Right. That's exactly right. And then it doesn't overtake the bathroom or the kitchen, or I don't know why I said bathroom.
But yeah, I've seen it. I've done starters, and they explode. So
you do that.
Right, so
if you do that for 10 days, after 6 days, it'll be bubbling and you can use it. It just won't have the full flavor that you like. After 10 or 12 days, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I like this flavor. I love it.
Okay, so basically what you want to do is for 10 days, kind of take it back down to 100 and then add your 200 back in. Right. And that gets everything, that gets the baby born.
That's exactly.
The sourdough baby is born. Okay. I was getting ready to try to type that up. I hope everybody got that. I will type it up in a minute. But so basically for 10 days, you start out with 200 grams, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. And then your whatever yeast you decide to put in there and help start it. But you always want to take it back down to 100 when you feed it every day.
100. If you have
all right.
Of the sourdough, then you match it with that much food. That's its daily caloric allowance, right? It's like if I had 1,000 pounds of starter, I would give it 1,000 pounds of water, and then I would give it 1,000 pounds of flour.
Okay.
And then the next day, I would take out what I needed. I would go back to 1,000 pounds, and I would go, okay, 1,000 pounds water, 1,000 pounds flour. Mix it all up overnight. Voila. Lives forever.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Just make sure you feed it.
I'm sorry?
Well, I was just going to say, just make sure you feed it. It goes dormant a little bit. I mean, it's relatively easy to reactivate, isn't it?
Oh, my God. So easy to reactivate. Okay. It's so easy. And, in fact, I can show you if you want to.
No, absolutely. Yeah, real quick. But Tim Rosh, he watches a lot of our shows. He wants to know what's the water temperature that you're putting in there when you, I guess at the beginning and just every time. I mean, is it just room temperature, just straight out of the tap?
Thank you for calling me on that, because I have my thermometer here and I meant to tell you.
Good job, Tim.
So temperature danger zone, 40 to 140, right? The ideal temperature for this starter when we want these bacteria and yeast to start multiplying is between 80 and 90. I know.
Okay.
These websites just like completely shut me down from like, no, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But we're trying to get the thing born. So we give it nutrition a lot, and we give it an incubator type of environment. We want it to multiply, so we give it a warm environment. So my water is always whatever my flour is. I mean, if my flour is 80, then I take water at 100 so that my mix is 90. And if my flour is 100, then I'll use like a little bit cooler water so that my pablum or my formula is always 90 degrees. And that keeps the baby happy.
All right. I love that. 90 degrees keeps the baby happy. Thanks. Great question, Tim.
Make sure it's nice.
Well, I mean, I wanted to say, I mean, you did have the formula on your starter there. I wanted you to hold that up to the camera real quick for everybody.
Yes.
And then you might have to twist it because some of the lighting, but I'm going to put this up there real quick. So, no, like right up, man, right up in the camera. Real close.
Right up.
Yeah, there you go. Now twist it. So we've got your starter. So, okay, so basically everything's just 200 grams. Yeah.
Can I tell you what we got here? Okay. First of all, the container tare weight is 300 Gs.
Okay.
That way,
Perfect.
all I have to do is put the thing on the scale, and it says, 650. So that means I have 350 grams of starter that I can work with.
Okay. Well, but then you had all your incremental ingredients, which is everything is.
I'm just saying as a way of measuring. That way, I don't have to take it out and go, oh, remember the guy said he wants 100 and all that kind of stuff. Just tear the container, and then you always know. Now,
okay.
What I have here is actually, okay, so there's my tare weight. So the container is 300. All right. Now, I actually, in this one, I'm trying to hold it. There you go. Look at that.
Perfect. Perfect.
So I take it out. I use 200 grams of starter. Just because that's what I use. And so I take out whatever whatever will bring this volume or this weight rather back to 200. And then I match that 200 with 200 water and 200 flour. I start back up.
And then the total is 900 Gs with the tare weight of the container.
Yes. Yes. But you can see that, okay, so I start with 200 and I end up with 600, just like, we started with 100 and then I ended up with 300 on the little sample. Yeah. And then every day I take it back down to my base. That's my base. That's my working weight.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I mean, that would be something that I would need. I mean, it's a great baker's tip because just make sure you write it down how much you need every single time, what the weight is, just to kind of keep it fed. So, kind of moving forward, I wanted to just, I think we're most of the way through this. We talked about some of the technique takeaways. I mean, definitely take it out to your base, even if it's 100 or if it's 200, like you were doing. Use in pizza. I mean, how does this get used in pizza? I mean, if you're trying to make a pizza dough, I mean, how do you use this as when you incorporate it into your dough? Is the starter just a little bit of starter, or is it? How much does a little bit of starter affect your dough?
Cavalier about the whole thing. You put in as much as you want, and talk about that, and we can talk about how more starter affects the fermentation time of your dough and how less starter and this and that and the other. But you as the baker, you as the pizza guy, you as the chef, you make your sauces as tangy as you like. You make them as sweet as you like. You make them as vegetal as you like. And that's your call. So And so from that point of view, it's an ingredient. If you like a lot of cheese, put a lot of cheese in it. So, and again, I don't want to be simplistic about it, because we will talk about like the concerns, but it's really up to you. And I know you know enough about how to monitor what you're doing, and I'm talking to all the bakers and pizza guys, because you wouldn't be watching this show if you already didn't know how to adjust your own stuff to make it work in your shop. So this is just one more. It's not even a tool. It's just like an ingredient. It's like I said, hey, look, I discovered fresh basil. Let me show you how to put it in your pizza. You put it in or not.
Well, that was one thing that you had actually sent over to me, and I do want to encourage everybody right now at this point. We're getting to the point where I want to get all your questions and comments answered. But you had said, for years I've been told, treat your dough like a baby, a living organism. And you sent me something saying, don't do that. Treat it as an ingredient. It's not necessarily the living organism, but it becomes an ingredient. How do you incorporate this into the flavor profile and texture and stuff like that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, that's great. And what's interesting is that I never said that, excuse me, to anyone. And I wrote it to you, and I go, oh, that's going to come back and bite me, man. I know it.
But I mean, no, it's not. It can be taken. I don't want to say out of context, but I mean, it's not to say that you don't treat it with care, but don't think of it as like a baby. Think of it as like something they're going to use too. So.
No, it's all good. I think we're, it's a safe environment here. We're like PG. So anyway, it is a live creature. It is. And, from teaching at the Cordon Bleu and everything for more years than probably a lot of your listeners are old. The thing that trips people up, in my experience, my naive experience, is that people are afraid that, oh my God, I killed it. Oh my God, it has to be this temperature. Oh my God, it needs whole wheat flour. Oh my God, I read this on and in fact, I mean, caveman developed this. And they didn't have the internet. They couldn't go on and see what kind of flour to use. They just went out in Mesopotamia and said, oh, look, here's some stuff. Let's grind it up and put it in. And, it's that simple. And it is live. And it is, so it's like, in a way, it's like milk or cheese. If you leave that out on the picnic table in a couple of days, you're not going to really want to put it in your food. So we feed it, we maintain it, and then when we're not using it, then we'll put it back in the fridge. And then we're like, hey, bring this out. Let's use some of that. And we'll take it and we'll put it in our pizza dough, or we'll put it in our chocolate muffins, which really, oh man. Or we'll do things like that with it, and we'll use its flavor and its texture. So really, it's like adding an unpasteurized cheese to your sauce.
Well, and like you said, it's how you want to use it. So I mean, people can use it as, they basically just kind of start their doughs with it. You don't have to necessarily treat it with kid gloves. It's there to serve a purpose, but you want to keep it alive as well. So it's like having a trout farm. That's a terrible analogy,
exactly. But don't fish them all.
Well, absolutely. So, what is some of the history of sourdough right there? Because I know, just from talking with other people, I know it goes back forever. People would take it all the time, and you can start another batch with dried shavings from your dough bowl mixer. If you mix a batch of dough, you can start a sourdough starter from that. What are some of the facts that you have about the history of sourdough?
Well, I kind of defer historically to food historians, because they know stuff like that. And I used to get called on it every once in a while, like in my classroom and stuff, because I'll kind of massage history or my idea of things that happened or something, so that the point gets across. And it's not necessarily the truth. I mean,
Well,
the Cambridge Society is not going to induct me because I say something smart.
To coin a phrase, it's more digestible.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I am more digestible. But listen,
well, no, I mean,
I wanted to just show you real fast. Okay, what is this? Right? This is a glass of water out of the tap, and in it is apple peel. And I learned this in a bakery I worked in France. And what they would do all week long, and they would peel their apples, make their tarts, and put it in the water. And then when they would go away over the weekend and come back in on Tuesday, they said, "Ooh, we got to give a booster shot to our starter." So they would use that water, which has all the yeast from the apples, to give a boost to it.
But yeah, we all know if we've left, apple juice or orange juice or any kind of fruit juice out long enough, it gets tart and it gets.
It's a starter.
There's a lot of yeast fermentation going there.
Flour, and you'll have a starter. Yeah.
All right. Well, so I mean, what is your favorite? And I do want to go actually to this video here real quick. I want you to maybe talk a little bit about this. You know what this is? Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to find it, but it's not that. But you had a somewhere in California, you were doing a
show the pizza boulanger. Okay, so
yeah, there we go. That's what I'm trying to get to here. I'm sorry. I was trying to think about it while I'm trying to find it. So I've got the video queued up. So I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about it right quick.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, so
this is what's
in France. This is my basic sourdough pizza. Guys, that's what you're looking at. And, this is a wood oven. I had a pop-up in Sonoma for a little bit on the weekends, but then a year of fires and then a year of COVID. So that literally is shut down. But anyway, this was the pie that I used to make. And this is it's an overnight fermentation. And it's made really flour, water, a tiny bit of commercial yeast, and the sourdough starter, and and this is just it, and it's called a pizza boulanger, the pizza that the bread baker would make, because in France they don't, they're not going to spin a pizza, they're not going to make Roman style with the pin, they're not going to, they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is at the end of the week, they're going to take whatever starter, that big last batch of starter that they're taking out before they feed, and they're going to go, you know what, we're just going to make a dough for this that we're going to turn into a flatbread, and we're going to put stuff on it, whatever accumulated during the week. And sometimes it'll be sweet. Here's a savory one, of course. And, pizza boulanger. And it's more of a bread, because, bakers make bread. And so, but it's in the shape of what a lot of people would know as a pizza. So that's what that is. And it's so easy. It's incredibly easy. If you make bread, you can make it. If you make pizza, you can make it. So if you want to talk more about that and put that formula up, Brian, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have a couple charts too that they're hand drawn. We're having technical difficulties, but we can get you some professional charts for you. The video went on to something else, but I mean, while you were talking, that pizza was cooked in real time with a sourdough starter.
That was real time.
No, that's what I was saying. I was going to tell you to speed up, but I didn't want to, because that's it. I mean, that's a wood-fired pizza. It was cooked in a minute and a half, 90 seconds.
That's how long it takes, man. Well, when you got customers waiting and they're at the winery, you gotta turn those things out, man. So in there 3 minutes. So
well, no, but I mean, it's beautiful that at that point you can demonstrate what a sourdough can do on a wood-fired oven typically 90 seconds. That's if you go longer than 90 seconds, it's not wood-fired and people get pissed. I'm just gonna say it. We all know it. But we do have a couple here, some charts. So these are handwritten by you. So let's go for like a baker's percent starter. Versus fermentation. Maybe you can walk us through a little bit of the science on this.
Actually, let's go the other way. Let's put up the the math chart first, because that answers your question of how much should I put in.
Roger. All right, so here we go. Basic formula. All right, so this is what we got. Here's the math chart. Basic formula, H2O, and I love this because it's a baker's percent, and I will put this into a baker's percent that I can make available to everybody, to where all you have to do is just change the amount of one ingredient, and it'll change everything. So why don't you walk us through this here real quick, Mike?
Through this. Okay, so on the left, I have a basic formula for a pizza dough. And, guys, yours is, and ladies, yours is, maybe hydrated a little bit more, a little bit less, but 60 is pretty much a guideline for that. Just a speck of commercial yeast. And then I have salt at 1.5. And I know that salt varies. Some people only put 1, some people put 2. That's just what I use. So the real key numbers here are, just compare this to your formula at 60% water and 100% flour. So you've got your formula, it works for you, you know what to do. And you say, hey, you know what? I want to put 20% sourdough in this. Okay, so now I'm in the middle. Now I'm in the middle column here. So you go, hey, you know what? For no reason at all, I choose 20. And so if you look at 20%, then what you realize is 10% of that is water and the other 10% is flour, because we're always half and half. Okay, yes. Okay, so I guess I needed some kind of feedback, but I'm like, no, I'm talking to the...
No, I'm watching. I was actually trying to magnify it, but yeah, 20% sourdough, so which equals 10% H2O and 10% flour. So that's already the 20% sourdough covered that math.
I wait for a response. Okay, so anyway, all right, so my 20% is 10 and 10. So now I look over at the new formula on the right-hand side. So if I'm adding 20% of sourdough, that means that my hydration has to be 10% less, because 10% already is in the sourdough. So that brings down that to 50. And then I look at the flour, and the flour was 100, but 10% of that is in the sourdough. So that brings my percentage down to 90. So now I have a new formula, and if I add them all up, I still get 160 and like the salt and yeast and change. So I'm just changing some of the flour and water into a sourdough starter and fermenting it and then putting it back in.
I love that. I just got this today, 2 hours ago, but this, answers all my questions about how do I incorporate sourdough into or any kind of starter, honestly, if you think about it.
You put it in.
That's beautiful.
Put it in, and sequence-wise, the sourdough, because it's liquid, goes in with the liquid and whatever dry yeast or active dry or yeast that you're using. That it just all goes in there. It's water and yeast, and then you make dough, and you put.
Well, let me ask you.
Oil in. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you. You've changed the hydration, you've changed the flour amounts, but you haven't changed the yeast. Well, no, I'm just saying you haven't changed. You've adjusted it because you're using the sourdough. But I mean, doesn't the sourdough have more yeast, or some of that, the yeast activants in it? I mean, because basically, when you go to the new recipe,
yes.
Yeast is still 0.1%.
Yes.
But it also has sourdough, so isn't that technically more yeast?
Okay, again, where you're thinking.
I'm trying. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn here. This is why I have you guys on. I don't know anything about this.
When we first get in the car, when we're 15 and you get the key, right? We don't care about the carburetors. So you're absolutely right. You're right on, and we can talk about that. But for right now, I just wanted to show you, okay, this is how you make that change. And then you
Okay.
make that pie and you eat it and you're like, hey, I kind of like this and I want it a little more tangy. So then you make it again at 30. And then you do that little math thing again, and then you do it again. Don't change the salt and the yeast because they're so small, they're little tweakers, and we'll worry about them later. Just worry about like, okay, oh, I like the texture now at 30. Like dial it in where you want it to be. Okay, now you've got a sour formula.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think ahead. They're always saying, you're always like the worst case scenario, but I'm just trying to learn here, but okay. So that
it's good. It's good. if you were in my class, I have a board and I write on it and I go talk about it. And then after we're all done, then I come back and I do it. So anyway.
Well, I'm going to make this into a beautiful graphic for you that you can use in your class. And I'm going to send out, if anybody wants it, they can reach out to me, brian@pmq.com. So with the other one that you have was a baker's percent. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Put that up. Now people know how to put the sourdough in, and you want to know how to affect the yeast.
Yep.
All right.
Tim Rosh does have another question about freezing. So Tim, I just sent you a message. I will get that asked here real quick, but I want to go in here and just kind of finish these charts that
you want to freeze sourdough starter because you're going away on a trip. Do it, man. I have Lucky Lady frozen in here in little baggies because one day something will happen. I don't know. And I want to make sure she's there. She's also in 3 other bakeries that I hang out in. So, we got backup for the backup. So,
it was an honor that Tim Grant, he shaved his dough mixing bowl and sent me some shavings to start my own starter. I didn't keep it up. I just don't make as much pizza and stuff like that. But yes, I want to get back to that. So, if you got some shavings of Lucky Lady, I'll put it in the fridge. I'm going to keep it going. But past that, you have a baker's percent for us for sourdough starter.
If you want, man.
Anything? Yeah, absolutely.
I got to take half out and use it. So I'm happy to share it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love some of that. So we got this baker's percent again. Another graph that you took the time out.
Let's teach our viewers here. Enough of our yakking.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Is that here we go. This baker's percent that you took the time to draw up sourdough starter. So,
well, first off, I'm really disappointed that you are apologizing that this is handwritten. I really am, because if you were to take my class, by the end of the 8 weeks, the walls would be plastered with parchment paper that have drawings on this and formulas and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like my, it's like my.
No, I no apologies necessary. Here's all my handwritten notes. People don't see that. Yeah, so I love handwritten. So. But yeah, I'm just saying that this is great. I was saying that you took
I'm not letting the computer do it.
Yeah, but you took the time to do it, which is what I appreciate. So
there you go. So let's jump back to that so I can explain to to our viewers what's going on. Okay, now so we got a blue axis across the horizon, and what that is the fermentation time, and this equates to the amount of time that you would really ferment your dough after you put it together. And that includes rounding it, putting it in the trays, putting it in the reefer, all that kind of stuff. And if you look on there, I maxed it out at 72 hours because that's kind of it's kind of an upper limit. I mean, some people go more than that. Some people go certainly less, but 72 just is seems to be a common number. So if you're at 72 degrees or 72 hours, okay, then look over on the vertical axis. And this is the amount of sourdough starter that we're putting in the dough. So we'll go from 10 to 20 to 30 up to 50, right? So just so you know what the axes are. 50 is really the most that you would want to do. And again, that is based on the weight of the flour. All right, 50% of the flour. So,
okay.
All right.
And this ties back into that baker's percent we just talked about.
Exactly that slide before. All right. So if we look over at point A on the very right-hand side at the bottom of the slope, we see, okay, this is a 72-hour dough, and then it's got 0 sourdough in it. All right. So that's how to understand that. Now, let's move up that slope backwards, and let's go to point B. So at point B, then I'm seeing, okay, that's that 20% sourdough. And that's that example we just did, right? So if I look down at that, well, that correlates the fermentation time to only 48 hours. So I still leave that tiny little bit of commercial yeast in there, but I shorten the fermentation time of the entire dough.
Okay.
All right, let's move up that scale again. Skip point C. I don't know what that is. And then there's point D.
30%.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. All right. Well, let's go up to D. And D actually should have been at 40%. So when you redo this, you can correct my myopia there. And so point D would be 40% sourdough. And if you look down at the fermentation there, that's 24 hours. And it's still with that 0.1% of yeast, because I don't want to change that. I don't want to change the salt. I just want to change the rate and the time of the fermentation, because that's what the sourdough is doing to the dough. So I eliminate the salt and the yeast from the equation, and I just focus on how much sourdough is going in and how long do I have to ferment that dough before it starts losing its extensibility and becomes really goopy or anything like that. So that's how that works.
And then, I mean, well, basically it seems like, obviously you ferment longer with the least amount of sourdough. I mean, you can get a lot of the same results. I don't want to say the same results. That's a terrible term, but it seems like it's a backwards kind of canvas here, because we're going up to point E, which is 50%, which is half. That's half sourdough starter for your whole thing, but that's only a 6-hour dough ferment.
That's exactly
so if somebody wants to have dough ready to go, that's use 50% starter.
See, now that's the thing, right? Because you're taking your starter, right? Which every day you have to take some out because that's the rule. And you go, hey, you know what? Let's put this in our pizza dough. Let's get all that flavor, all of that, and then turn the rest of it with your water and the rest of the flour and your salt, and turn that into dough. And because you have such little flour in there, you can't let that ferment for 72 hours because the yeast will just completely obliterate it, and all you'll have left is a colony of yeast and not really any dough. And so you can't have a 72-hour dough with 50% sourdough, because it's just going to eat it all up. That you know, you know that.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to go there. So I mean, but we want to definitely get to the point where we're allowing that sourdough to get in there, create some texture, definitely that flavor, because there's a huge difference between just a regular pizza dough and some sourdough starter flavor in the crust. So
listen, Demeter, can you pull that that graph, that slanted graph up? Okay, so now I'm looking at point D and I'm looking at point B, and you see that triangle that they kind of create there?
The 20. Yeah, I see it.
Between the 20 and the 40 and on that thing,
Yep.
That's your sweet spot right there.
Between B and D. All right.
That is.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely. Yeah, we can get this made up, but I appreciate you putting just your artistic effort into that. But I mean, this is some great dough science, and that's the one thing, is that anybody who says they know everything about dough, they're either a liar or from the future. That's all I got to say.
Ooh, okay. Well, you have hope for us. Okay, that's good.
I'm just saying nobody knows everything about it. You always have to be learning, and if you don't, you're standing
That's a very
still.
optimistic perspective. I appreciate that.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate everything all the information you've given to us. Is there any other things that maybe we didn't talk about right now, just real quick, that you want to get out there? Other super important points about sourdough starter, how to create it, how to hold it, manage it, and incorporate it.
The only thing I want to talk about is that everything I've said is in my book called How to Bake More Bread. And it is entirely about everything we just did. How to take 100 grams, how to do this, how to get it at 90 degrees, how to feed it. And the sourdough pizza formula is even in there. So I just want to put that out there. And then other than that, no, I'm just like, I'm happy to help bakers and pizza guys and ladies, because it's like, I really just hope I demystified it, or at least, like took away the scary ending or something like that, because it's, I want people to feel free of like, you know what, I'm just going to put it in. I'm just going to put it in, and then we're going to see what happens. And, it's like anything you do in the kitchen. It opens the door and it leads you to somewhere else if you're open to take that route. So that's really the thing I want to get across. So,
well, absolutely, and I mean it's how to bake bread and how to bake more bread is available, I believe. I mean, just Google it. You can find it on Amazon.
It's everything's on Amazon, so you certainly can get it there. If you go to my website and then buy it through there, then then my publisher will give me a latte if I sell enough. So if you do it that way, then I appreciate that. But it's the same to you either way. So
you say he give you a latte?
If I sell enough through my own website, yes, he gives me a latte. So
I did want to see that. I love this picture here too, right there. That crumb structure. That of course it went away, but that beautiful little crumb structure on the right there. If you can see it on the croissant or whatever, the light airy dough. So, you know your stuff, Michael. I do appreciate you being here. So, I mean, I actually did have a couple other questions here real quick for you.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, only like somebody wants to know the temperature. There has to be another question. Make one up.
No, basically, it's. There are others that. How long can you keep it? I'm sorry, it's Tim Rosh. He wanted to know freezing or storage and stuff like that.
Freeze it.
Freezing an option. Here it is. There you go, Tim. I'm sorry.
And then when you come home, you unfreeze it, as my students say, and then however much it weighs, what if it weighs like 50 grams? You put 50 grams of flour in and 50 grams of water, and you stir it up, and you put the lid on, and you do that for 3 days, and it's back. It doesn't even know you went away.
I like how Tim put it, will the creature come back to life?
It's not even, you know what it's like? It's like reanimation. It's like zombies, it's like, you can't get rid of them, man.
I mean, do you feel you have to name every single one do you have to name a sourdough starter when you start something? I mean, do you have to sing to it? Do you give it kind of that love to keep it going? Well, let's just say, do you have to name it? Should you name a starter?
This is my experience is that it takes so much effort and discipline to not name it. It really, really, and literally in the decades that I've taught so many students how to do this, it's like the first thing they do is like, oh, what should we call it? What should we call it? Like, it's got to have a name, man. You don't just, you're not born and you don't have a name. So anyway.
Well, I did want to give you a chance real quick, too. You do have some other things going on. You have a class coming up that you want people to kind of sign up for. So I'm going to put this up here real quick. and it is in the comment section, guys. I didn't want to. I knew I was trying to think of that one last thing. This is what I wanted to talk about because this is the next big thing for you, right?
I appreciate the promo on that, Brian. Yes, this is it's a group called Class 101, and it's a group out of Korea, and they put together online training and learning modules. And they've been out for a while, but they're just now moving into the baking arena. And so they've asked me if I would put together a course that they could launch and test that market. So they need support from viewers like you. And, and just go on. And when you go onto that website, it'll say follow. It'll ask for your email. And basically, it's like a GoFundMe, except, well, you don't have to fund me. You just have to put your email in. And that shows the producers that, okay, we're gaining momentum. We're gaining some followers here. And then, okay, it's worth producing. So that's that would help me a lot. And I would appreciate that. So.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the easiest thing. It's like you said, it's not like we're donating money. We're just donating follows. And anybody who wants to go in there, you can definitely do that. But you also, I mean, you have other online courses. So you have a complete bread course here as well.
Oh man. Yeah. Again, if you go on my site, there's really a slew of online courses. I just got picked up with The Great Courses, and that was an incredible honor, because I mean, I think like Al Gore does one of those things, or Al Pacino teaches you how to act, or well, a lot of Al's, I guess. So so I've got that on there, and then also Craftsy is an online learning platform, and I've got again very fundamental video-based courses. They're about 3 hours long in little segments, and you can ask questions and do all that kind of stuff. But it takes you through a lot of the basics of, that's why they always tell you to do that with your dough, for example. So it answers a lot of those questions.
Well, absolutely. And that's why we try to bring you guys on here too as well. And I learned so much here. Honestly, I had to hold myself back because I can make this like 2 hours long. We're already over an hour right now. So honestly, I think we're going to have you. I would love to have you do some contributions to PMQ Pizza Magazine as well, as far as any kind of sourdough starter or any kind of artisan bread baking and stuff like that. So I think look forward to seeing a lot more from Michael Kalanty and PMQ Pizza Magazine. But Michael, just one positive affirmation for the industry right now before we go. We're going to go, but keep everybody's hopes up. What do you got to say?
You know what? It's just sourdough. It's a thing. It's an ingredient. Put it in. If you like it, put more. If it's too much, next time, don't put as much. It's okay. You're not going to kill it. There you go. Peace out.
Hey, I love it, man. He's to the point. So I appreciate everybody's time and attention today and all the questions and comments that we got. If you have any other questions, you can reach me at brian@pmq.com, or you can reach out to www.michaelkalanty.com. It's scrolling across the bottom. He's got several different websites. It's also in the comments. So you want to reach out to him, figure out about sourdough or anything else, artisan bread baking, just reach out to him. I think he's ready to answer your questions. So, Michael, once again, I appreciate your time today, brother. I look forward to talking to you in the future. But past that,
my pleasure, Brian. It really has, and this was just a lot of fun. So I appreciate that, and to the audience, really, thanks for hanging in. And dude, shoot me a question, because the math can be confusing. It's really not. I'll tell you how it's not. So I'll see you. Thanks.
Yeah, and then we'll make sure that we'll get those charts ready to go for everybody, so that it's just plug and play, figure out the baker's percent and all that stuff. So, all right, Michael, thank you so much. World, thank you so much. Everybody, I want you guys to stay safe and stay sane. Okay, I got to stop. All right, Joel, you're killing me. Joel A, are you kidding me? No, I love it. He jumped in at the last second. How does he get starter from you?
Hey, Joel, you know what? Hit me up on my website, contact chef, and, we'll go from there.
So, okay, so I mean, the website being michaelkalante.com.
Beingme.com, yes.
Okay. And he says he's in the Bay Area, so you might want to meet up for lunch.
Well, 6 feet away, okay.
6 feet, I guess that's a... All right. All right, Joel, I appreciate you chiming in there at the last second. There's always one. And you're the one today, Joel. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. I'm Brian Hernandez. I was with Michael Kalanty today, Artisan bread baker in the San Francisco Bay Area. Everything you need to know about sourdough. We'll see you guys next time. But until then, stay safe and stay sane. Love everybody. Just be safe.
Peace out.